Hi and welcome back. In the last video we talked about this idea of synchronous code and how it's basically just code running as you would expect, and now we're going to introduce some asynchronous code. So I'm going to write some code and we're going to see what its output and then talk about what it's doing here. So okay, so let's we saved this. Let's go ahead and open up the browser and refresh. So did you see that? Let's zoom in and make sure. So refresh, hello, and then shortly after, goodbye. Now if we look at the order of this, in theory, the goodbye should happen first, right? Because it came before this call to the say hello function. But setTimeout is an example of asynchronous code. And so setTimeout is a function that takes two arguments. One, a callback function, and two, the number of milliseconds that you want this code to in the callback function to actually run. So 1000 milliseconds is 1 second. So this code delays until 1 second and then it runs. That's why there's a quick delay and then there it is. If we increase that just to show you, let's do 5 seconds. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Close enough. And so this is an example of asynchronous code. And you might think, oh, well, what if we just put 0? So, I mean, there's a 0 second delay, a 0 millisecond delay. This should fire immediately, right? Well, let's take a look. No, the goodbye still comes after the hello. And that's from this concept in JavaScript that we call the event loop, which is how asynchronous code actually runs. And so essentially an event loop is as follows. I'm going to show a quick picture here. Your normal code is on what's called a call stack. And this is actually this can be expanded to every programming language. When you make a program, the code you write is on a call stack, including our JavaScript programs. So you can see here we got a console log, we've got something called a log or whatever, a main function. And the idea of a stack is that the code is stacked on top of each other. It's a type of data structure. We're not going to get too into it. This isn't a computer science class, but code executes one by one off the stack. But when you have asynchronous code, that code is put onto a callback queue, including this setTimeout. And this callback queue will not run anything until the call stack is exhausted. So what actually happens is when setTimeout is called, this callback goes onto the callback queue and it waits until all the call stack is exhausted and maybe some other condition, like for example the actual second. So even though we have a 0 second delay, because this callback is going on the callback queue, it won't fire until all the code from the call stack is done running. Now that seems technical. It is. You don't need to have that down, but the point is that that's how asynchronous code works. Now, you also see stuff that we've sort of done before, like DOM manipulation, which is that also goes in the callback queue, but it's not technically really asynchronous because that code might never fire. It's code that is just kind of waiting for your specific action, like a click or a key press or whatever. But we do have fetch, and that's what we're going to be talking about in the next full module. So setTimeout, in summary, is a function that takes a callback as an argument and a number of milliseconds to wait and delay the execution of this callback. And once that number of milliseconds has passed and the call stack is empty, this console log fires. So in the next video, we'll talk about setInterval. Thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.